Welcome to Movie Film. My name is Carl and I just finished season 2 of The Mandalorian. The only word that comes to mind is wow. I was blown away by season 2. I loved season 1, but it was nowhere near as good as season 2. Season 2 takes it to a whole new level, and I think for a lot of people, myself included, has reignited that flame, that love of Star Wars. That flame that was put out by a movie called The Last Jedi, the worst movie that was ever made. Because let's be honest, that trilogy, the sequel trilogy, was so bad, it just made you question everything regarding Star Wars, whether it was actually that good or not. And then The Mandalorian comes along and they right all those wrongs. Now, if you haven't seen the final episode of The Mandalorian Season 2, it's a bit weird that you're watching a full season review, but on the off chance that you haven't seen it, I am going to keep this episode spoiler free to a point. Later on in the episode, we're going to get into the final episode of The Mandalorian Season 2 because there's a hell of a lot to talk about. Possibly one of the best finales to a season of television ever. But if you haven't seen it, don't worry, we're not going to spoil it until later in the video, and I will give you a warning. The main thing about The Mandalorian Season 2 in particular that makes it stand out is you can tell this was made by Star Wars fans. This was made by people who have respect for the series, who know what they're talking about, and who love Star Wars. The people have, invested time in Star Wars and learned all the things they need to learn to bring us a version of Star Wars that makes us all yearn for a galaxy far, far away again. So much happened in this season. They added a little bit more characterization to Baby Yoda, as I stated even after season 1, he wasn't Baby Yoda, and then people got all pissed off because they gave him a name, and it was kind of weird. I don't understand people being pissed off that he was called Grogu, because what do people want him to be called? You need a Star Wars name. Star Wars names aren't like Peter or Paul or Luke. Straight off the bat, we had the episode where they're fighting the Crate Dragon, and Karl Urban is in there, dressed as a Mandalorian, and when he comes into a bar, you see the armor, you're like, that kind of looks like Boba Fett, but he's too small to be Boba Fett. He takes out his helmet, Karl Urban. It's like, well, that was a disappointment. They're just teasing us that Boba Fett's going to be in it. Skip forward a few episodes later, Boba Fett. If you didn't notice, this is like the one spoiler for the final episode, because it's not really a spoiler. But when the credits roll on the final episode of season 2, if you turned it off right then, you might have missed that there's a post-credit sequence that sets up an entire other series starring Boba Fett that they didn't announce last week, which was just another holy fuck moment on top of all the other holy fuck moments, but we'll get to those. So in my video about Disney's reveal of all the Star Wars projects we got to look forward to, which I'm very excited for, I mentioned that Ahsoka is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars after watching the animated Clone series. And I was delighted to see her pop up in The Mandalorian Season 2, and Rosario Dawson did a pretty good job. It was only one episode, but we're getting a whole season of Ahsoka, and I cannot wait for that. It'll be interesting to see if Mando pops up in there somewhere, or even Grogu, or that guy from the finale. Storytelling throughout The Mandalorian Season 2, every episode I think had me gripped. It was fantastic all the way through. Everything looked great. The soundtrack is interesting because it's different, but it fits. Clearly some very good composers working on that one. I think that's one of the downfalls of the sequel movies, is the music doesn't quite fit. It's not quite Star Wars-y enough. I know that sounds weird, but I think people who love Star Wars get my point there. There's a certain type of music that fits with Star Wars. It's hard to explain, but they got it right with The Mandalorian Season 2. On top of that, the cast for the whole series is spectacular. Pedro Pascal deserves some great praise, because somehow, for a guy who 99% of this series, we don't see his face, created a character that a lot of people become attached to. And the moments when he does take his helmet off are exceptionally emotional and just brings closer to him. Apart from like the one with the Sith base, that wasn't emotional as much as a holy fuck moment. On top of that, you got Giancarlo Esposito as one of the bad guys, and we saw in Breaking Bad what an amazing bad guy he can be. I think he did a pretty good job as Moff Gideon. I do think they missed a trick that could have made him one of the best villains in Star Wars history, but we'll get into that later on. And overall, everybody in this series puts it in a good term. Baby Yoda is the one part of season 1 that caught global attention, and they gave him a bit more personality in this season. I say that his personality was basically eating things, but as someone who also likes eating things, I empathize a lot with that guy. The one thing I found slightly off-putting at times was their use of the word dark. And let me explain what I mean, because saying that just sounds weird. But they've got dark troopers, and straight away that seems really cheesy. And the dark troopers themselves, at first, the first time we seen them, seemed very Marvel-y, almost Iron Man-like. You know, it was a little bit weird, but they definitely, in the finale, become pretty damn good. On top of that, we got the dark saber. And before the final episode, I was like, why we all of a sudden got a dark saber? And if there's dark sabers and lightsabers, why didn't Darth Vader have a dark saber instead of a lightsaber? Seems a bit of a weird thing. That was my only one gripe with the whole series. I cannot reiterate this enough. This series has made me fall back in love with Star Wars and a galaxy far, far away, especially after the disaster, which was Star Wars The Last Jedi. I still, a year later, have not watched Rise of Skywalker because The Last Jedi was so bad. I made 2 whole videos on it, you can check them out up there. So as much as I want to sit here all day talking about how great season 2 of The Mandalorian is, I can't hold it much longer. I need to talk about that final episode. It was so spectacular, and if you haven't seen it, this is the point where you cut out the video, you go and you watch it, you come back and you tell me what you thought. Now, they had the episode where Grogu called out the other Jedi, like Ahsoka said he would, from this special Jedi rock. And when that happened, I was saying, there's very few people it could be. Now, potentially, it could have been a force projection of Yoda, like we saw in The Last Jedi, or Qui-Gon Jinn, who his voice featured in the Clone Wars, showing that he's still alive in some aspect. It could have been Anakin, because Hayden Christensen has recently been announced as being back in the Star Wars universe. They could have had him as a force projection to help out maybe Yoda, maybe guide him. The other thing was maybe it was a Jedi we only slightly saw in maybe the Clone Wars who survived Order 66. But when you really broke it down and you thought about it and you thought about the timeline of where they are just after Return of the Jedi, there's only one man it could be. And they teased it brilliantly in the show. We come down ultimately to the scene, I'm skipping a lot. We ultimately come down to the scene with the Dark Troopers banging on the door. The guys ready to fight. They made it seem like the Dark Troopers are badass, and one of them was beating the hell out of Mando, and he took all his energy to beat just one of them. And here's an army of them knocking down the door. And he has Beskar, the others don't have Beskar. If they take all those punches to the face, they're dead. The tension's building, they've done it brilliantly, and just at the pivotal moment, another ship starts flying in. And then they show the ship. It's an X-Wing. And who flies an X-Wing? So they do a great job where we just see on the cameras a Jedi appear, and he's chopping down Dark Troopers like it's nothing. He's clearly a very powerful Jedi. And then we see the live action part with the green lightsaber. The green lightsaber Luke had in Return of the Jedi. Now at this point, I am fully certain it's Luke. Everyone had to be certain it was Luke. But we're all going, holy fuck, surely it can't be. Because, let's be honest, Luke Skywalker did not get a good send-off in Star Wars The Last Jedi. Mark Hamill has also been pretty clear he wasn't happy with the path Luke Skywalker was taken down in the likes of The Last Jedi. So to get another crack at it, I think all of us were delighted when that hood came down and it was Luke. But it wasn't just Luke, it was young Luke. They bring out the CGI and it's getting there. It's getting there. When the hood came down, I was expecting it to be Luke, and when it's actually young Luke, I came close to crying, I'm not going to lie. I got very emotional there. That was a holy fuck moment. My hands were on my head for like 10 minutes going, holy. They just built it up brilliantly. They tied everything together spectacularly, and then on top of that, along comes R2-D2, which just brings a smile to everybody's face. A droid that was massively disrespected in the sequels. I don't know why. I don't know why he was put out the pasture in the sequels like The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, but he was. Even though they made it clear in Clone Wars he's a very special droid, and that makes him stand out above the new models. And he was only there beeping and booping, but it was still great. But I had to get to that moment first when talking about the finale, because those moments, that moment in particular, where we get to see Luke Skywalker again in his prime, it's just fantastic. Every bit of it was played out perfectly. Earlier in the episode, I felt there was a moment that both could have split audiences, but also could have been pivotal in the story of Moff Gideon. He could have become the greatest villain, one of the greatest villains in Star Wars. No one's ever going to beat Darth Vader. But he's got the moment, where Mando runs into the cell. Baby Yoda is there. I'm still calling him Baby Yoda, that's weird. Grogu is there, and Moff Gideon's holding a dark saber above his head. Eventually hands over Grogu to Mando, but it looks like it's gonna be a bait and switch, similar to Force Awakens when Kylo Ren turns off his lightsaber and then turns it back on. Could you imagine if Moff Gideon turned off his lightsaber, told Mando he could pick up Grogu, and just as Mando gets there, he turns on the lightsaber and kills Grogu in front of Mando, which causes their fight. Now, obviously, Grogu is a great character, and hopefully we're going to see more Grogu. I fully expect somewhere down the line they're going to announce Star Wars Grogu, and hopefully that does happen, whether it's a series or a movie. I'm definitely favouring series because it seems long-form storytelling is better for Star Wars. But, getting back to it, if Moff Gideon kills that beloved character, that young beloved character, in front of the man who's effectively raised him, that makes him a hell of a bad guy. And especially if he gets away and, you know, isn't instantly killed by Mando. He sets up the perfect villain for season 3. Although they have kind of set up season 3 pretty well with Bo-Katan and Mando. They've got to settle things. That's just my 2 cents on what could have made Moff Gideon one of the best Star Wars villains, but he was still pretty damn good, and Giancarlo Esposito, as I said earlier, is a fantastic villain. Every single bit of this series, the storytelling, the music, the acting, the characters, the special effects, the series had so many amazing moments. And as a Star Wars fan, to the people that made that, thank you so much for bringing back my love of Star Wars. And that can't be understated. And it just makes me even more excited for all the Disney stuff with Star Wars that's coming out. And I'm hopeful, very hopeful, that somehow we get more Luke Skywalker, because that was sensational. But I think I've done a lot of rambling on that season. I can't speak highly about it enough. I can't stop speaking about it. All night I was racking my brain because I watched it last night. I sat up all night thinking about it, thinking about what an amazing show it was. And I want to hear from more Star Wars fans and talk Star Wars. So let me know your opinions on The Mandalorian Season 2. Did you love it as much as I did? Did you not like it? I'd love to hear your thoughts, good or bad, in the comments below. So guys, if you liked today's video, please hit that like button just so that I know what you're watching. And if you like Star Wars or movies in general, we've got a hell of a lot of content you might enjoy on this channel. And of course, if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. We're almost at our goal of 100 subscribers. It's a minor goal. We're only 18 away at the time of recording. Hopefully we can smash that. Maybe even by the end of the year, it might be a bit of an ask. We'll see. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching.